Almost transparent blue. R.Y. Murakami. Translated by Nancy Andrew. Kodansha International. Tokyo, New York, London. The author, R.Y. Murakami, was born in 1952 and grew up in the port city of Sasebo in western Japan. While studying at the Musashino College of Art in Tokyo, he submitted Almost Transparent Blue in a competition for new writers conducted by the literary monthly Guns. Published as a book, the novel won the Akutagawa Prize for 1976. Besides continuing with his writing, Murakami has had a weekly disc jockey and TV interview program, and has directed several of his own movies. His novel Coin Locker Babies is due out from Kodansha International in 1995. First published in Japanese as Kaguranaku Tmei Ni Kaikai Buru by Kodansha Limited, Tokyo, 1976. Distributed in the United States by Kodansha America Incorporated, 114, Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10011. Published by Kodansha International Limited, 17 to 14 Otoa 1 Chum, Bunkyoku, Tokyo 112, and Kodansha America Incorporated Copyright symbol. 1977 by Kodansha International Limited. All rights reserved. Printed in Japan. LCC 80 to 85383 ISBN 087011469-7 ISBN 47700-0957-7. In Japan, first edition, 1977 first paperback edition, 1981-98-99-1716-15. It wasn't the sound of an airplane. The buzz was an insect somewhere behind my ear. Smaller than a fly, it circled for a moment before my eyes, then disappeared into a dark corner of the room. On the round white tabletop reflecting the ceiling light was an ashtray made of glass. A long, thin, lipstick-smeared cigarette smoldered in it. Near the edge of the table stood a pear-shaped wine bottle, with a picture on its label of a blonde woman, her mouth full of grapes from the bunch she held in her hand. Red light from the ceiling trembled on the surface of the wine in a glass. The ends of the table legs disappeared into the thick pile of the rug. Opposite me was a large dressing table. The back of the woman sitting at it was moist with sweat. She stretched out her leg and rolled off a black stocking. "Hey, bring me that towel. The pink one, okay?" Lily said, tossing the rolled-up stocking at me. She said she'd just got back from work, picked up the cologne, and lightly patted it on her forehead, which was shiny with grease. "So then what happened?" she asked, wiping her back with the towel as she looked at me. "Oh, I thought I'd give him some booze, it might cool him down, and besides him there were 2 other guys in a car outside, everybody high on glue, so I thought I'd give him some booze." "Was he really locked up in the juvie pen?" "He's a Korean, that guy." Lily was taking off her makeup. She wiped her face with a little cotton wad, flattened and soaked with a piercingly fragrant liquid. She leaned over to peer into the mirror and took off her false eyelashes. They were like the fins of a tropical fish. The cotton she tossed away was smeared with red and black. "Ken, he stabbed his brother. I think maybe it was his brother, but he didn't die, and he came to the bar a little while back." I gazed through the wine glass at the light bulb. Inside the smooth glass sphere the filament was a dark orange. "He said he'd asked you about me, Lily, so watch your mouth, okay? Don't tell too much to weird guys like that." Lily finished the wine that had been set down among the lipsticks and brushes and various bottles and boxes on the dressing table. Then right there in front of me she slipped off her gold lame slacks. The elastic left a line on her stomach. They said Lily had done fashion modeling, once. On the wall hung a framed photo of her in a fur coat. She told me it was chinchilla and cost I don't know how many thousands. One time, when it was cold, she'd come to my room, her face pale as a corpse. She'd shot up too much Philippon. With a rash around her mouth, shaking violently, she'd fallen in as soon as she'd opened the door. "Hey, will you take off my nail polish? It's all sticky and nasty." I'm sure she said something like that as I hugged and lifted her. That time she was wearing a backless dress and was so drenched with sweat that even her pearl necklace was slippery. As I'd wiped her fingernails and toenails clean with paint thinner, since there hadn't been any polish remover, she'd said in a low voice, "Sorry, there was something kind of rough at work." While I was holding her ankle and rubbing her toenails, Lily just stared out the window, breathing deeply. I slipped my hand under the hem of her dress and felt the cold sweat on the inside of her thighs as I kissed her and slid her panties down. With the panties tangled around one foot and her legs spread wide on the chair, Lily said then, "I'd like to watch TV, there should be some old flick with Marlon Brando, some Elia Kazan." The flower-scented sweat on my palms had taken a long time to dry. "Ah, why, you shot up on morphine at Jackson's house, right?" "Day before yesterday." Lily was peeling a peach she'd taken out of the refrigerator. Legs crossed, she was sunk deep in the sofa. I waved aside her offer of the peach. "Well, don't you remember a girl there, red dye job, short skirt, good style, good ass?" "I don't know, there were 3 Japanese girls there." "You mean the one with the afro hairdo?" I could see into the kitchen from where I sat today. A black bug, maybe a cockroach, was crawling around on the dirty dishes piled in the sink. Lily talked on as she wiped peach juice off her bare thighs. She dangled a slipper from one foot, in which I could see the red and blue blood vessels. I always think these are lovely, seen through the skin. So she was lying, that bitch. She cut work, said she was sick but she was playing around all day with guys like you, no thanks. Did she shoot up, too? Jackson wouldn't let her do that, would he? It's really a bummer, the way he says girls shouldn't shoot up. So she was from your place, huh? She sure laughed a lot, smoked too much grass and laughed a lot. You think she should get fired? But she draws them in, right? Yeah, well, with that kind of ass. The cockroach had stuck its head on a dish covered with globs of ketchup. Its back was shiny with grease. When you smash cockroaches, the juice comes out in different colors. Maybe the belly of this one was full of red now. Once, when I killed a roach crawling on a paint palette, the juice was a bright fresh purple. Since there'd been no purple paint on the palette, I thought red and blue must have mixed together in that little belly. So what happened about Ken? Did he go home all right? Or, I let him in and said there are no girls. Will you have some booze? But he said sorry, make it a Coke, I'm high already. He actually apologized. Really dumb, huh? The guys waiting in the car picked up a chick who was just passing by. She was pretty ripe. What makeup there was left on Lily's cheeks shone faintly. She tossed the stone of the peach into the ashtray, pulled out the pins to take down her dyed hair, and began to slowly brush its waves, a cigarette drooping from the corner of her mouth. Ken's sister used to work at my place, a long time ago. She was pretty smart. She quit. Since she went back to the country, said her home was somewhere up north. Her soft red hair clung to the brush. After straightening the rich mass of hair, she got up as if she just remembered something and took a silver box containing a slender syringe out of the cabinet. She held a small brown bottle up to the light to see how much was inside, drew just the right amount of liquid up into the syringe, and leaned over to shoot it into her thigh. Her other leg trembled slightly. I suppose she put the needle in too deep, because when she took it out, a thin trickle of blood ran down to around the knee. Lily massaged her temples and wiped away the saliva that had dribbled from the corner of her lips. Lily, you've got to sterilize that needle every time. Without answering, she lay down on the bed in one corner of the room and lit a cigarette. The thick blood vessels in her neck moved as she puffed out the smoke weakly. You want to shoot up, why? There's still some left. Not today, I've got some at my place too, and some friends are coming over. Lily reached over to the bedside table, picked up a paperback copy of The Charterhouse of Parma, and started reading. As she blew smoke on the open page, she seemed to chase after the words with a peaceful, absent-minded expression. You're sure read at weird times, silly Lily, I said, picking up the syringe that had fallen from the shelf and rolled along the floor. She said, yeah, this is good, in a voice that got tangled up in her tongue. There was blood on the end of the syringe. When I went into the kitchen to wash it off, the cockroach was still working on the dishes in the sink. I rolled up a newspaper and, careful not to break the plates, smashed it after it moved onto the small table by the sink. What are you doing? Lily asked, scraping the blood from her thigh with her fingernail. Hey, come over here. Her voice was very sweet. The juice from the roach was yellow. Smashed on the edge of the table, it stuck there, the antennae still stirring slightly. Lily slid off her panties, called me again. The Charterhouse of Parma had been tossed on the rug. A sharp odor filled my room, the smell of an old pineapple on the table. I couldn't remember when I'd cut it. The cut end had gone black, completely rotten, and the syrupy juice lay congealed on the plate. As Okinawa got ready to shoot up, the tip of his nose glistened with sweat. Seeing that, I thought it really was a hot sticky night, just like Lily had said. As she'd rocked her body, which must have been growing heavy on the damp bed, she kept saying, hey, aren't you hot? Today's really hot. Hey, why, how much was that smack? Leiko asked as she took a record by the doors out of a leather bag. When I answered $10, Okinawa said loudly, oh wow, that's cheaper than back in Okinawa. He was heating the needle of a syringe with a lighter. After sterilizing it with a hunk of cotton soaked in alcohol, he blew on it a couple of times to make sure that the hole wasn't blocked. You know, I was really freaked out to see how the walls and the John and stuff had been fixed up, over there at the lockup in Yotsuya, you know, and this young guard bastard was a real blackmouth, right? And he kept making dumb jokes like saying, this is better than the police storm, and some old guy played along with him by laughing real loud, so I felt really down. Okinawa's eyes were a muddy yellow. He was drinking odd-smelling liquor from a milk bottle, and he was already pretty drunk when he got to my room. Hey, were you really in a drug rehab center back there? I asked Okinawa as I opened the aluminum foil with the heroin in it. Yeah, my old man put me in, a good old Yakran drug center, since the guy who'd busted me was an MP, right? First they put me in that GI place and had me take a cure, then sent me back here. Hey, why, America's really, you know, advanced, I really thought so. Leiko, who'd been looking at the door's record jacket, cut in, yeah, why, don't you think it'd be great to get shot up on morphine every day? I'd like to get into some Yank drug center, too. Scraping together the heroin from the edges of the foil with an earpick, Okinawa said, "Shit, I told you, small-time users like you can't get in. They only let in real junkies like me, right? Nobody but real addicts, needle marks on both arms, right? There was this nurse there called Yoshiko, kind of sexy, you know, and I got shot up in the butt by her every day. I'd stick out my butt, like this, see? And while I'd be looking out the window at everybody outside, they're playing volleyball or something, she'd shove it to me right in the ass, right? But I was so wasted my cock was all shriveled up and I didn't want Yoshiko baby to see it. A big butt like yours, Leiko, just couldn't make it in there." Leiko went humph in annoyance, said she wanted something to drink, went into the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. "Isn't there anything?" Okinawa pointed to the pineapple on the table and said, "Have some of this, it tastes just like home, right? Okinawa, you sure do love rotten things, don't you? What about those clothes, huh? They stink." Leiko said as she drank some watered-down Calpis, moving an ice cube around in her cheek. "I'm going to be a junkie real soon, too. I'll just get worn out if I'm not as much of an addict as Okinawa after we get married, and so after we're both hooked we'll live together, right? And then I'd like us to go off it bit by bit. You'd have your honeymoon in a drug center." I laughed. "Hey, Okinawa, that's what we'll do, okay? That's cool, that's what you should do. You could line up your butts together, real nice, and get shot up with morphine while saying I love you to each other, right?" Okinawa laughed a little, said, "Shit, stop putting me on," and with a napkin dried off the spoon he'd been soaking in hot water. With the uprick, he placed a bit of heroin just about the size of a match head in the center of the bow-handled, stainless steel spoon. "Hey, Leiko, you sneeze or something now and I'll stonk you, you understand?" He fixed the needle in place in a 1cc battlefield syringe. Leiko lit a candle. Using the syringe, he carefully dripped water on the heroin. "Hey, why, you going to fix up another party?" Okinawa asked, rubbing his slightly shaky fingers on his pants to steady them. "Yeah, well, those black guys asked me to." "And you're going, Leiko? To the party, right?" Okinawa asked. She folded up the rest of the heroin in the foil. Looking at me, she answered, "Yeah, but it's nothing to get uptight about. Look, I don't want you to get stoned and screw some black, okay?" He held the spoon over the candle. All of a sudden the solution was boiling. Froth and steam rose from inside the spoon. The bottom was dirty with black soot. Okinawa slowly moved it away from the flame and blew on it to cool it, just like you do when you're going to feed soup to a baby. In the clink, you know, he began as he started tearing up a cotton wad. "In the clink, you know, I was going cold turkey, right? Had these nightmares, you know, I don't remember them too well, but I saw my big brother, I'm the fourth son in my family. He was the oldest, I never got to know him. He died fighting in Oroku. There wasn't even a photo of him, just a bad picture my old man had drawn and stuck in the family altar. But anyway, there was my big brother in my dreams. Wasn't that weird? Wasn't that really far out? And did he say anything?" "No, well, I don't remember now." After soaking a bit of torn cotton about the size of a thumbnail in the cooled solution, he sank the tip of the needle into the center of the sodden wad. There was a faint noise, just like a baby sucking milk. The clear liquid filled the slender glass tube a little at a time. When he'd finished, Okinawa licked his lips and pressed the plunger very slightly to force the air out. Leiko said, "Hey, let me do it. I'll shoot you up, why? I used to do it for everybody back in Okinawa." Her sleeves were rolled up. "Shit no. Not after what you did. You blew it that time and wasted $100 worth. It's not like, you know, you're throwing together rice balls for a picnic or something. Fuck you. Here, tie Awaya's arm with this." Leiko pouted and glared at Okinawa as she took the leather thong and made a tight tourniquet around my left arm. When I made a fist with my hand, a thick blood vessel stood out in my arm. Okinawa rubbed the spot with alcohol 2 or 3 times before plunging the wet needle tip in toward the bulging vein. When I opened my fist, blackish blood ran up into the cylinder. Saying hey hey hey, Okinawa coolly pushed the plunger, and the heroin and blood entered me all at once. "Hey, well, that's it. How about it?" Okinawa laughed. He pulled out the needle. In the instant that my skin quivered and the needle was gone, the smack had already rushed to my fingertips and hit my heart with a dull thud. Before my eyes there seemed to be something like a white mist, and I couldn't make out Okinawa's face very well. I pressed my hand against my chest and stood up. I wanted to take a deep breath, but my breathing rhythm was off and I had trouble doing it. My head was numb as if it had been beaten, and the inside of my mouth was dry enough to burn. Leiko took my right shoulder to hold me up. When I tried to swallow just a little saliva from my dry gums, I was filled with a nausea that seemed to rush up from my feet. I fell groaning onto the bed. Leiko seemed worried and shook my shoulder. "Hey, don't you think you gave him a little too much? He hasn't shot up a lot before. Hey look, he's real pale. Is he okay? I didn't give him that much. He's not gonna die, right?" "No, he's not gonna die, Leiko. But bring that pan. He's sure gonna heave." I buried my face in the pillow. Although the back of my throat was parched, spittle overflowed steadily from my lips, and when I tried to lap some up with my tongue, violent nausea attacked my lower belly. Even trying as hard as I could to breathe, I got only a little air, and that felt as if it didn't come in through my nose or mouth but just seeped in through a tiny hole in my chest. My hips were almost too numb to move. From time to time a strangling pain pierced my heart. The swollen veins in my temples twitched. When I closed my eyes, I felt panicky, as if I were being pulled at terrible speed into a lukewarm whirlpool. Clammy caresses ran all over my body, and I began to melt like cheese on a hamburger. Like water and blobs of oil in a test tube, distinct areas of hot and cold were shifting around in my body. In my head and throat and heart and prick, fevers were moving. I tried to call Leiko, my throat cramped, no words came out. I'd been thinking I wanted a cigarette, that's why I wanted to call Leiko, but when I opened my mouth my vocal cords just quivered and gave off a strange whistling sound. I could hear the clock ticking over near Okinawa and Leiko. The regular sound ran in my ear with a strange gentleness. I could scarcely see. At the right side of my range of vision, which was like a diffused reflection on water, there was a dazzling flicker that hurt me. As I thought that must be the candle, Leiko peered into my face and lifted my wrist to check my pulse, then said to Okinawa, "He's not dead." I moved my mouth desperately. Raising an arm as heavy as iron, I touched Leiko's shoulder and whispered, "Give me a smoke." Leiko put a lighted cigarette between my lips, wet with spittle. She turned toward Okinawa and said, "Hey, look here at Awaya's eyes. He looks scared as a little kid, right? He's shaking, you know, it's really pathetic. Hey, he's even crying." The smoke clawing at my lungs was like a living thing. Okinawa took my chin in his hand to raise my face and check the pupils of my eyes and said to Leiko, "Hey, that was a close call, a real bummer. Like, if he'd been maybe 20 pounds lighter that would have been the end of him." The warped outlines of his face looked like the sun seen through the beach umbrella you sprawl under in summer. I felt as if I'd become a plant, folding its greyish leaves at dusk, never putting out flowers, just having its downy spores blown away by the wind, a quiet plant like a fern. The light was put out. I could hear the sounds of Okinawa and Leiko undressing. The sound of the record rose, soft parade by the doors, and between the notes I could hear rubbing on the rug and stifled moans from Leiko. An image of a woman plunging from a tall building floated into my mind. She was staring at the receding sky, her face was distorted with terror. She made swimming motions, struggling to rise again. Her hair had come undone and waved above her head like seaweed. The trees along the streets, the cars, the people growing larger, her nose and lips twisted by the wind pressure. The scene in my mind was just like the bad dreams that drench you with sweat in midsummer. It was a slow-motion film in black and white, the movement of the woman, falling from the building. They got up, wiped the sweat from each other, and lit the candle again. I turned away from the brightness. They were talking in voices too low for me to make out. From time to time I was seized with cramp and nausea. The nausea came in waves. Biting my lip, gripping the sheet, I rode it out, and when the nausea stopped at my head and rolled back again, I noticed a pleasure just like sexual release. "Okinawa, you dirty rat." Leiko's high voice rang out. With it came the sound of breaking glass. One of them fell on the bed and the mattress sank down, tilting my body a little. The other one, it seemed to be Okinawa, spat out the word shit, yanked open the door and left. The candle was snuffed out in the wind and I could hear the sound of someone pounding down the iron staircase. In the pitch-dark room I heard the soft sound of Leiko's breathing, and then I started to faint as I fought down the nausea. An odor just like the rotten pineapple. I could smell the same sweetish odor from the juices of this mixed-blood girl Leiko. I recalled the face of a certain woman. Long ago, I'd seen her in a movie or a dream, thin, long fingers and toes, slowly letting her slip fall from her shoulders, taking a shower behind a transparent wall. Then, water dripping from her pointed chin, she gazed into her own green eyes in a mirror, a foreign woman. The man walking ahead of us looked back and stopped, then tossed away a cigarette in the running water of the ditch. Firmly clutching a new duralumin crutch in his left hand, he moved on. Sweat ran down the back of his neck, and from the way he moved, I thought he must have hurt his leg just recently. His right arm seemed heavy and stiff, and there was a long groove in the earth where his foot had dragged. The sun was straight overhead. Walking along, Leiko slipped off the jacket draped over her shoulders. Sweat blotched the tight blouse sticking to her body. She seemed tired, as if she hadn't slept the night before. In front of a restaurant I said, "Let's have something to eat." She just shook her head without answering. "I don't understand that guy Okinawa, I mean, the trains had already stopped running for the night by the time he left." "It's okay, Awai, I've had enough," Leiko said softly. She pulled a leaf from a poplar tree planted beside the road. "Hey, what do they call this thing like a line here? This here, do you know?" The torn leaf was dusty. "Isn't that a vein?" "Yeah, that's it, a veined me. I was taking biology in junior high, and I made a specimen book of these. I forget what it's called but I put on some kind of chemical, you know, and it just left these all white and dissolved the leaves, just left the veins real pretty." The man with the crutch sat down on the bench at the bus stop and looked at the schedule board. Fossa General Hospital, the bus stop sign read. The big hospital building was on the left, and in its fan-shaped central garden, over 10 patients in bathrobes were doing exercises, led by a nurse. They all had thick bandages on their ankles, and they twisted their hips and heads in time with the tweets of a whistle. People coming up to the hospital watched the patients. Hey, I'm coming over to your bar today. I want to tell Moko and Kay about the party. They'll be coming in today? Sure they'll come. They come every day, so they'll come in today, too. Me, I'd really like to show it to you. What? That specimen book with all the leaves in it. A lot of people back in Okinawa collect insects, because they've got prettier butterflies than here. But me, I made a book of leaf veins, you know, and the teacher said it was real good, and because I got a prize and went all the way to Kagoshima, I still keep it in my desk drawer. I'm taking real good care of it. I really want to show it to you. We reached the station. Leiko threw away the poplar leaf beside the road. The roof over the platform flashed silver, and one put on my sunglasses. It's already summer, really hot. Hair. What? Yeah, I said it's already summer. Summer's hotter. Leiko just stared at the rails. Drinking wine at the counter, I could hear the sound of someone crunching a Nibrol pill in one corner of the bar. After closing up early, Leiko had spilled about 200 Nibrol pills out onto the table. Kazuo said he'd lifted them from a drugstore in Tachikawa. Then she said to everyone, tonight's the party before the party. She got up on the counter, pulled off her stockings while dancing in time with the record music, came over to hug me and stuck her tongue, smelling of the pills, into my mouth. Finally she heaved up blackish blood and vomit and stretched out on the sofa without moving. Yoshiyama, brushing back his long hair with his hand, shaking droplets of water out of his beard, was talking with Moko. She looked over at me, sticking her tongue out and winking. Yoshiyama turned and asked me with a laugh, Hey, Awai, it's been a while, you got anything for me? Any hash or something? I put both elbows on the counter and let my feet, in rubber sandals, dangle from the chair. My tongue smarted from smoking too much. The sour wine stuck in my throat. Hey, don't you have any sweeter wine? Kay was telling Kazuo how she'd gone to Akita to work as a nude model, but he looked drowsy from the Nibrol. Drinking whiskey straight from the bottle, tossing peanuts one at a time into her mouth, she said, so there I was, tied up on stage, it was Jay's awful. Hey, Kazuo, tied up with some prickly rope don. Why I think that was awful? Kazuo wasn't paying any attention to her. He was peering at me through the finder of his knickermat, which he called more precious than life itself. Hey, why I gotta listen when people are talking? With a poke in the back, Kay tumbled Kazuo onto the floor. Hey, wow, don't mess around, he said, that's a bummer, what if you'd broke it? Kay snickered, stripped off her blouse, started cheek dancing and tongue kissing with whoever she bumped into. Maybe because of yesterday's heroin, I felt dragged out and didn't want any of the Nibrol. Moko came over. Hey, Awai, won't you go in the can with me? Yoshiyama felt me up and I'm all shaky. She was wearing a red velvet dress and matching hat, and the powder smeared thickly around her eyes was red. Awai, you remember when you made me in the can at that disco? Her eyes were bleary and unfocused. The tip of her tongue flicked from her lips and her voice was too sweet. Hey, you remember? You told me a big lie, said the cops had come and we had to hide, right? And got me all scrunched up in that little can. You forgot. Oh wow, that's the first time I've heard that one. Oh why, is that the way it was? You're a real stud, right? Even though you've got a face like a pot, you've done stuff like that, huh? Yeah, that's the first time I've heard. Yoshiyama's voice was loud. He let the needle fall on a record. What are you talking about, Moko? Stop running off at the mouth, okay? It's just something she made up, Yoshiyama, I answered. With a blast of sound, Mick Jagger began to sing. It was a really old song, Time Is On My Side. Moko threw one leg over my knees and said drunkenly, I hate lying, oh I, don't lie, that time I came 4 times, 4 times, you know. I'm not going to forget or anything. Leiko stood up, her face greenish pale, muttered, what time is it now, what time is it? To no one in particular, staggered to the counter, took the whiskey from Kay's hand, poured some down her throat, and had another violent fit of coughing. That's real dumb, Leiko, why Jay's lie down like a good girl. Kay grabbed back the whiskey roughly, wiped Leiko's spittle from the mouth of the bottle with her hand, and took another sip. When Kay pushed her on the chest, Leiko fell against the sofa, then turned to me and said, Hey, don't make it so loud, that's no good, the guys from the mahjong place upstairs will get after me. They're real finks, they'll call the police, so can't you keep it down a little? As I leaned over the amps to lower the sound, Moko squealed and jumped astride me. Her cold thighs squeezed my neck. Hey, Moko, you wanna make it with our why that much? I'll do it for you. How about me? I could hear Yoshiyama's voice behind me. I pinched Moko's thighs hard. She shrieked and tumbled to the floor. Idiot, freak, why, you idiot, you can't even get it up, I'm sure you can't. I heard you're a fairy for those niggers, you've been taking too much dope. Maybe because it was too much trouble to rise, Moko lay where she had fallen, laughing, lashing out to kick my legs with her high heels. Leiko pressed her face into the sofa and said in a low voice, "Oh, I wanna die. My chest hurts. Hey, my chest really hurts. I wanna die." Kay looked up from the Stones record jacket she'd been reading and gazed at Leiko. "Well, why don't YAJs go ahead and die then?" "Hey, why, that's right, huh? Why I think so. People who wanna die should Jays go ahead and die without a lot of fuss. It's real dumb. Leiko's Jays playing up to us." Kazuo attached the strobe to his nickermat and shot a picture of Kay. When the strobe went off, Moko, lying flat on the floor, raised her head. "Now Kazuo, cut that out. Stop taking pictures without any say-so. I'm a pro and get a guaranteed wage. That real glittery light Jays gets me down. I hate photographs, so turn out that real glittery light. That's why I don't get along with people." Leiko groaned as if in pain, half turned her body, and heaved up globs of vomit. Flustered, Kay ran to her, spread a newspaper, wiped her mouth with a towel, and massaged her back. There were a lot of rice grains in the vomit. I thought of the fried rice we'd eaten together that evening. The red ceiling light was reflected on the surface of the brownish vomit on the newspaper. Leiko, eyes closed, was mumbling, "I wanna go home, I wanna go back there, I wanna go home." Yoshiyama pulled Moko to her feet, and while he was undoing the buttons on the front of her dress, he chimed in on Leiko's monologue. "Yeah, that's right. It's getting to be the best time of year to be in Okinawa, yeah." Moko grabbed Yoshiyama's hand as he tried to squeeze her breasts, then hugged Kazuo, saying, "Hey, take a picture," in the same sugary voice. "I'm in that fashion maganin, this month's issue, as a model, in color. Hey I guess you saw it." Kay rubbed her finger, wet with Leiko's spittle, on her jeans and dropped the needle on a new record. "It's a beautiful day. Leiko's J's playing up to us." Kazuo, his legs sprawled wide on the sofa, lay back and clicked the shutter at random. The strobe burned steadily, so I pressed my hands against my eyes. "Hey, Kazuo, cut it out. You'll use up the battery." Yoshiyama tried to kiss Kay but was pushed away. "What is it with you? Didn't you say you were having the hots yesterday? When you fed the cat, you said Blackie, you and me really want it bad, huh? That's what you said, right? So how about a kiss?" Kay drank her whiskey. Moko was posing in front of Kazuo, holding up her hair and grinning at him. "Hey, you can't come up with a real smile now just by saying cheese, Moko." Kay yelled at Yoshiyama. "Why are we making such a fuss? Jays, leave me alone. I get mad Jays seeing that face of yours. That pork cutlet I ate for supper. Why I know that money came from a farmer in Akita. The 1,000 yen he gave me with his hand all black. Why I know that?" Moko looked at me and stuck out her tongue. "I hate you. Why, you pervert." Thirsty for some cold water, I chipped at the block of ice with an ice pick but stabbed my finger. Kay, who'd been dancing on the counter, ignoring Yoshiyama, got down and licked the blood welling out of that little hole, saying why, so why have you given up music? Leiko got up from the sofa and begged, "Hey, please turn down the sound." Nobody went near the amps. The front of her dress gaping open, Moko came over to me as I pressed a paper napkin to my finger and asked, laughing, why, how much can we get from those niggers?" "Heh, you're talking about the party? I mean if Kay or I make it with those niggers, how much can we get from them? I'm not saying it has anything to do with me, but..." Sitting on the counter, Kay said, "YAJ's cut it out, Moko, that kind of killjoy talk. If YA want money I'll take YA to a good guy. A party's not for money, it's for having fun." Moko twisted the gold chain dangling on my chest around her finger and sneered, "I guess you got this from one of those niggers. You dumb cunt. I got this in high school from a girl in my class, on her birthday. I played a certain smile for her and that got to her and she gave me this. She was a rich kid, her father had a big lumber yard. And listen, Moko, you've got to stop saying nigger, they'll kill you, they can understand that much Japanese. If you don't like it, you don't have to come along, right, Kay? There are plenty of other girls who want to come to our parties." When she saw Kay nodding, her mouth full of whiskey, Moko said, "Oh, don't get mad, I was just kidding." She hugged me. "I'll go, didn't we already decide that? Those niggers are strong and they'll give us some hash, right?" She stuck her tongue in my mouth. Kazuo brought the nickermat up almost to my nose, and just as I yelled, "Cut it out," he pressed the shutter. As if I'd been hit hard on the head, everything turned white before my eyes. I couldn't see. Moko clapped her hands and shrieked with laughter. I slid along the counter, almost falling, but Kay held me up and passed some whiskey from her mouth into mine. She'd smeared on sticky oily smelly lipstick. The lipstick-flavored whiskey burned down my throat. "Bastard. Stop it, won't you cut it out?" Yoshiyama yelled, slamming the comic book he'd been reading on the floor. "Kay, you'd kiss her why, huh?" I took a step and staggered, knocking over the table. There were the sounds of breaking glass, foaming beer, peanuts rolling on the floor. Leiko got up, shaking her head, and yelled, "Everybody out, get out." Rubbing my head, I put some ice in my mouth and went over to her. "Don't worry, Leiko, I'll clean up everything afterwards. It'll be okay. This is my place. Tell everybody to get out. Hey RY, it's okay if you stay, but tell the others to get out of here. Leiko squeezed my hand. Yoshiyama and Kei were glaring at each other. Hey, so you'll kiss RY instead of me? Heh. Kazuo said timidly. Yoshiyama, I'm the one to blame. It's not like you think. I was fooling around with the strobe and got RY and he was falling over. So Kei gave him some whiskey, you know, like medicine. Yoshiyama growled, get away, and shoved Kazuo, so that the Nikamat almost fell. Hey, what are you doing? Kazuo snapped. Caught in Kazuo's arms, Moko mumbled. Wow, this is really dumb, right? What's the matter? Why are you jealous? Kei made her dangling sandals slap against her feet. Eyes swollen from crying, Leiko pulled at my sleeve and said, hey, get me some ice. I wrapped some up in a paper napkin and put it on her forehead. Kazuo turned to Yoshiyama, who had stood up and was glaring at Kei, and clicked the shutter again. Yoshiyama almost punched him. Moko laughed loudly. Kazuo and Moko said they were going to clear out. We think we'll go to the bathhouse for a while, Moko said. Hey, Moko, you'd better button up, or some punk will pour you. And it's Kenji Station tomorrow at 1 o'clock, so don't be late. Laughing, Moko answered, I know, you pervert, I won't forget or anything. I'm going to dress up really fine. Kazuo dropped to one knee on the road and clicked the shutter at me again. A drunk who'd come along singing said something and turned back toward the strobe. Leiko was trembling slightly. The paper napkin had fallen on the floor and the ice had almost all melted. The way I am feeling now doesn't have anything to do with you, Yoshiyama. It's Jay's nothing much at all. I don't have to sleep with YA, right? Puffing her cigarette smoke straight up, Kei talked slowly to Yoshiyama. Anyway, YA Jays. Stop hassling me. Jays, stop it. I don't care if we break up. YA might not like it but I'd be okay. Anyway, YA wants some more to drink. It's the party before the party, right, Awai? I sat down beside Leiko. When I put my hand on the back of her neck, her body jerked slightly and smelly saliva trailed from one side of her mouth. Kei, you quit saying ah and stuff like that all the time. I don't like you to talk like that, so cut it out, huh? So okay, I'll go start work tomorrow. That'll be okay, right? I'll get together some bread, so it'll be okay, huh? Kei was sitting on the counter. Oh, is that so? Yeah, go to work. That'll really help me out. She swung her legs back and forth. I don't give a damn if you try playing around. It's just you're saying ah and stuff. It sort of gets to me. I'll just think it's because you have the hots. And anyway everything's gonna be fine because I'll go get a job on the docks in Yokohama, huh? Yoshiyama gripped Kei's leg. Her tight slacks were pasted on her thighs. The slight bulge of her belly rested on her belt. What are YA talking about? Don't say crazy mixed up stuff. It embarrasses me. Look, isn't RY laughing? I don't get what YRE's saying at all. RMJ's me, that's all. Stop talking like that. Where'd you pick up that accent anyway? Kei tossed her cigarette in the sink. Pulling on her shirt, she said, that's from Emma and Mama. Didn't YA know Mama talks like this? Hey, didn't YA come to Emma's house one time? Remember the woman with the cat, sitting in the kotatsu, munching on rice crackers? That's Emma Mima and she talks like a do. Didn't YA hear her? Yoshiyama bent down and asked me for a smoke, then dropped the call I tossed to him. Flustered he picked it up, slightly damp with beer, stuck it in his mouth, and, lighting it, said quietly, let's go home. YA go home by myself, I'm okay here. Wiping Leiko's mouth, I asked Yoshiyama, aren't you coming to the party tomorrow? I think it's okay if he doesn't, isn't it okay? This guy says he's going to work so it's okay if he works. It won't matter any if Yoshiyama's there or not, will it? YA just go back to our place. If YA don't go back soon, YA won't be able to get up. Tomorrow's Yokohama, right? Early. Hey Yoshiyama, you really don't plan to come? Without answering, he went over to one corner of the room and started to put Left Alone on the spinning turntable. As he pulled the record from its jacket, which had a ghostly photo of Billie Holiday, Kei got down off the counter and said in his ear, make it the Stones. Cut it out, Kei, don't talk to me anymore. Yoshiyama looked straight at her, cigarette clamped tight in his mouth. It's so dumb, what's with that record? Why I want to listen to gloomy piano again, right, just like a tired old granddaddy. That stuff is to blacks like what Nani Wabushi is to us. Hey, Awai, say something to him. This is the latest Rolling Stones. Why I haven't heard it, have YA? It's Sticky Fingers. Ignoring her, Yoshiyama put Mal Waldron on the turntable. Kei, it's already late and Leiko told us to keep it down. And it's no good playing the Stones with the sound turned down, right? Buttoning her shirt and looking in the mirror to fix her hair, Kei asked, what about tomorrow? We decided on 1 o'clock at Kenji Station, I answered. Kei nodded, smeared on some lipstick. Yoshiyama, I'm not coming back tonight because I'm going to Sam's place, so be sure and give the cat some milk. Not the milk in the refrigerator, the milk on the shelf, don't mix them up. Yushiyama didn't answer. When Kei opened the door, the air that flowed in was cool and moist. Hey, Kei, leave it open for a while. As we listened to Left Alone, Yushiyama filled a tumbler with gin. I picked up the pieces of glass scattered on the floor and collected them on the newspaper soaked with Leiko's vomit. I don't like to say it, but these days it always goes like that, Yushiyama muttered as he stared at the ceiling. It was the same even before she went up to Akita to work. We sleep separate at night, even though I don't do it much anyway. I drank a Coke from the refrigerator. Yushiyama waved his hand to show he didn't want any and drained down all the gin. She's been saying she wants to go to Hawaii. It's been a while, but remember about how there was talk maybe her dad is in Hawaii? I thought I'd get together some bread and send her there. Well, I don't know if the guy in Hawaii is really her dad or not, but I thought I'd get together some bread, but now everything's all mixed up and I don't have a clue what she's thinking anymore. She's like that all the time, every day. Yushiyama pressed his hand to his chest, stood up, and hurried outside. I could hear him spewing into the gutter. Leiko was really passed out. She was breathing through her mouth. From the back cupboard, hidden behind a curtain, I took a blanket and covered her with it. He came back holding his belly, wiping his mouth with his shirt cuff. Yellow vomit clung to the front of his rubber sandals. A sour smell floated from his body. I could hear Leiko's faint breathing. Yushiyama, come tomorrow, to the party. Yeah, well, Kei, she's looking forward to it. Says she wants to do it with those niggas again. So I'm kind of, what's with Leiko today? She was pretty wild. Yushiyama sat down opposite me and swallowed a mouthful of gin. Yesterday, at my place, she had a fight with Okinawa. She didn't get to shoot up, She's fat and her veins don't stand out, I guess, and Okinawa got impatient and shot it all up himself. Hers too, shot it all up. Real idiots, they are. And you were watching like an idiot? No, I'd shot up. I was flat out on the bed, thought maybe I'd die. It was scary. I got a little too much, really scary. Yushiyama took 2 more Nibrol pills, dissolved in gin. My stomach felt empty, but I didn't feel like eating. Thinking maybe at least I'd have some soup, I looked in the pan on the gas ring. But the surface of the soup was a film of grey mold, and the bean curd in it was slimy, rotten. Since Yushiyama said he'd really like some coffee, with a lot of milk, I put up with the awful smell of the soup and warmed some coffee in a pot. Yushiyama poured milk up to the brim of his cup, held it firmly in both hands, and brought it to his mouth. He yelled, hot, and vomit sprayed from his pursed lips like water from a toy pistol and fell in globs on the counter. Oh shit, I'll just stick with liquor, he said, and gulped down the gin left in his glass. When he had a slight fit of coughing and I rubbed his back, he turned around and said, "You're really great." His lips twisted. His back, sticky and cold, had a sour smell. After that I went back to Toyoma. I guess you heard from Leiko? After I'd been at your place, my mom died. I guess you heard. I nodded. Yushiyama's glass was full of gin again. The too sweet coffee stabbed my roughened tongue. It's really a funny feeling when somebody actually dies on you. That was the first time for me. Are your folks okay? Are why? They're okay. They worry about me. I get all kinds of letters. The last number on Left Alone ended. The record turned with the sound of tearing cloth. Yeah, well anyway, I took Kei with me. She said she'd come along to Toyoma. She didn't want to stay at our place by herself. Sure, don't you get how she felt? We stayed at this inn, but it was 2,000 yen without meals, really high. I turned off the stereo. Leiko's feet stuck out from under the blanket. The soles were black with dirt. And then on the day of the funeral, Kei phoned me, said to come back over for a while because she was lonely. When I said how can I leave, she said she'd just kill herself, and so I was really freaked and I went. She was listening to an old radio in that dirty 6-mat room. She said she couldn't get the FEN station. Well, how can you expect to get the GI broadcasts way over in Toyoma? And then she asked me all sorts of stuff about my mom, really dumb stuff. She was laughing in this fakey way. It was a bad scene, honestly. When she died, Kei asked how my mom's face had looked when she died, and is it really true they put makeup on people before putting them in coffins, stuff like that, When I said, yeah, they put makeup on her, she asked, what brand? Max Factor? Revlon? Kanebo? How was I supposed to know something like that? And then she started sniffling, said she'd been really lonely, then she bawled, But, well, I think I understand how she felt, waiting around on that kind of a day. Yeah, I know it'd be lonely. The sugar had sunk to the bottom of the coffee. I swallowed without thinking. All at once the inside of my mouth was coated with sugar and I felt sick. Yeah, I see that, too. I know, but listen, my own mom was really dead. Kei was crying and mumbling, and then she dragged the bedding out of the closet and she stripped. I just said goodbye to my dead mother and there I was being grabbed by this naked half-blood chick. It was kind of, you know what I mean? It would have been okay, I guess, if we'd done it. But it was kind of. You didn't, huh? How could I? Kei was bawling, and I actually got uptight. Hey, you know the soap operas on TV? Somehow I thought I was in one of those soap operas. I got worried maybe they could hear us in the next room. I was ashamed. I wonder what Kay was thinking then. Anyway, it's been no good between us ever since. The only sound was Leiko's breathing. The dusty blanket moved up and down in time with it. Sometimes drunks peered in through the open door. Anyway, ever since, it's been weird. Yeah, we fought a lot before. But now somehow, it's different. Somehow, something's different. And even though we'd talked about Hawaii before and been making plans for a long time, you saw how it was today? Yeah, even sex is no good anymore. I'd be better off going to one of those Turkish baths. Your mother, was she sick? I guess you could say that. Her body was just worn out. Her eyes were all tired, and she'd gotten a lot smaller than she used to be. When she died. Yeah, it was pretty sad about my mom. I thought it didn't have anything much to do with me, but it was pretty sad. Did you know? She went around peddling that old-time Toyoma medicine. When I was little I went around a lot with her. She'd walk around all day with that bundle as big as an icebox on her back. There are regular customers for it all over the country, And do you know there's paper balloons, the kind you can blow into and puff up? She used to give them out free. I used to play around a lot with those. It's really funny, when I think about it now. It was really something. I could play all day with a thing like that. If I tried it now, I'd be bored stiff. But even back then I was bored, really. I don't remember having any fun. One time I was waiting for my mom in this inn, and the electric light was out, and I realized the sun had set and it was getting dark. I couldn't say anything to the maids there. I wasn't even in grade school. I was scared. I went over to one corner of the room where a little light came in from the street. I can't forget it. I really was scared. That little street, and the town smelling of fish. I wonder where it was. The whole town smelled of fish. Where was it? There was the sound of a car far off. Leiko mumbled now and then. Yoshiyama went outside again. I followed. Side by side, we puked into the gutter. I braced my left hand against a wall and stuck my finger back into my throat. The muscles of my stomach jerked and warm fluid came out. As waves passed through my chest and belly, sour lumps lodged in my throat and mouth, and when I pushed them with my tongue, they numbed my gums and then plopped into the water. As we walked back inside, Yoshiyama said, "Hey, why, when I heave like that, and my guts are all mixed up and I can hardly stay on my feet and I can't see good, that's the only time I really want a woman." Well, even if there was one around, I couldn't get it up and it'd be too much trouble to open her legs. But anyway, I still want a woman. Not in my prick or in my head, but my whole body, all of me, is just squirming for it. How about you? Do you get what I mean? Yeah, you want to kill her, rather than fuck her? That's it, squeezing her neck like this, tearing her clothes off, ramming a stick or something up her butt, a classy chick like the kind you see walking on the Ginza. Leiko was coming out of the john. She said sleepily, "Hi, come in." The front of her slacks was open. She seemed about to fall. I ran forward and held her up. "Thanks, why, it's quiet now, isn't it? Hey, give me some water." My mouth sticky, her head dropped. As I cracked some ice, Yoshiyama was stripping her where she lay on the sofa. The Nikomat lens reflected a dark sky and small sun. When I bent forward to have it reflect my face, Kay bumped into me. "Why, what are YA doing? Who's talking? You're the last one here. It's no good being late." On the bus, "YA no." This old guy spat on the floor and the driver made a fuss about it, even stopped the bus. They both got red in the face, shouting at each other, even though it's so hot. "Where's everybody?" Yoshiyama was sitting sleepily by the street. She laughed at him. "Hey, weren't YA going to Yokohama today?" Leiko and Moko finally came out of the clothes shop in front of the station. Everybody around turned to look at Leiko. She was wearing an Indian dress she just bought, a red silk dress covered with tiny round mirrors all the way down to the ankles. "You really got another wild outfit." Kazuo laughed, turned his Nikomat on her. Kay said in my ear, her perfume hit me. "Hey, why, I wonder if she doesn't know, being that fat and buying that kind of dress. It doesn't matter, does it? She must have wanted to change her mood. She'll get tired of it soon. You can get it from her then. Kay, it'd be sure to look good on you." Glancing around, Leiko said to us all in a tiny voice. Me, I was shocked. Moko did it right while the store clerks are watching, stuffed it in her bag all at once. "What, Moko, you've been lifting stuff again? You're stunned. They'll get you if you don't cut it out," Yoshiyama said, screwing up his face against the fumes from a bus. Moko thrust her arm in front of my face. "Smells good, huh? Dior. Dior's okay, but don't be such a show-off about your lifting. You'll get us all in trouble." While Yoshiyama and Kazuo went off to buy hamburgers, the three girls exchanged cosmetics and smeared their faces, leaning against the railing by the ticket puncher. They pouted and peered into their compact mirrors. People passing by looked at them strangely. An older station official laughed to Leiko. "Great clothes, sister, where are you going?" Drawing on her eyebrows and looking very serious, she told the man who punched her ticket, "Party, we're going to a party now." In the middle of Oscar's room, nearly a fistful of hashish smoldered in an incense burner, and like it or not, the spreading smoke entered one's chest with every breath. In less than 30 seconds I was completely stoned. I felt as if my insides were oozing out through every pore, and other people's sweat and breath were flowing in. Especially the lower half of my body felt heavy and sore, as if sunk into thick mud, and my mouth itched to hold somebody's prick and drain it. While we ate the fruit piled on plates and drank wine, the whole room was raked by heat. I wanted my skin peeled off. I wanted to take in the greased, shiny bodies of the black men and rock them inside of me. Cherry cheesecake, grapes in black hands, steaming boiled crab legs breaking with a snap, clear sweet pale purple American wine, pickles like dead men's wart-covered fingers, bacon sandwiches like the mouths of women, salad dripping pink mayonnaise. Bob's huge cock was stuffed all the way into Kay's mouth. RMJ's gonna see who's got the biggest. She crawled around on the rug like a dog and did the same for everyone. Discovering that the largest belonged to a half-Japanese named Sabor, she took a Cosmos flower from an empty vermouth bottle and stuck it in as a trophy. Hey, why, his is twice the size of the one YA got. Sabor raised his head and let out an Indian yell, then Kay seized the Cosmos flower between her teeth and pulled it out, jumped on the table, and shook her hips, like a Spanish dancer. Flashing blue strobe lights circled the ceiling. The music was a luxuriant samba by Louise Bonifay. Kay shook her body violently, hot after seeing the wetness on the flower. Somebody do it to me quick, Kay yelled in English, and I don't know how many black arms reached out to throw her on the sofa and tear off her slip, the little pieces of black translucent cloth fluttering to the floor. Hey, just like butterflies, said Leiko, taking a piece of the cloth and spreading butter on Durham's prick.